just want to walk you through sort of my method for how we're going to do this. So when we talk about importing and organizing media, Final Cut has some really powerful features for organizing footage. There's many different ways we can do this, and again, it's all going to come down to personal preference on how you do it. The method I'm going to show you here is what I do with my footage when I bring it in. It just makes it easier for me to, when I'm working, know how to find things fast. Because you could just bring footage in and just leave it as is, and you could still go through it. But it helps to organize it into different keyword collections and organize it by tags. So you can just type in a word or a phrase and you have the clip that you need. So you can organize your imported footage by keywords and tags. And what tags are words that describe the content of your video clips. And you can set tags to whatever you want them to be. All right. We can also batch rename our video clips within Final Cut Pro 10. And that helps us to filter and sort much easier too. This is something that I discovered, and I was blown away by how easily. So rather than going through my Finder window to all my video clips that I have maybe in a folder that I took off of memory cards, I don't have to go through and rename those files. I can do them by batch right inside Final Cut Pro 10. So let's say I have a bunch of files and they're all dealing with birds. Okay, I can say, hey, Final Cut, take all these files and give them new names. I want you to call them birds, and there's 30 clips, birds 1 through 30. And I can highlight those clips and set it to do that, and it'll just automatically rename the clips. What's nice is it's not renaming the clips outside of the program. It's just renaming them inside Final Cut Pro 10. So we're not changing any of the, the Final Cut events or media that's in the events folder, so we're not dealing with any issues for linking media files later on. So really powerful batch renaming. We're going to get into that. And we can tag, or we can filter and rate clips, so only the best parts of our footage can be rated as favorites, and keyword tags can be used to bypass unwanted parts of a video clip. We'll demonstrate this as we move on. Furthermore, bad video clips, and these can be entire video clips that we know we're not going to use. I'm sure you guys have left your camera rolling when you didn't mean to, and then you bring it into Final Cut and you go, I'm never going to use that shot. Well, we can just reject that shot, and it'll put it aside, and we don't have to look at it without actually deleting it. Or you can tell Final Cut, hey, you know what, trash it. Just send it to the trash. We don't need it anymore. So the first thing we're going to do is get organized. And the first step to organization is we're going to organize our footage in Finder, okay, for easy import. And then when we import our media into Final Cut Pro 10, we're going to organize it in phase 2. All right, so we have kind of 3 phases of organization. Phase 1 is organizing outside the program. Phase 2 is organizing inside the program using keyword collections, and we'll get to what those are in a few minutes. Then we're going to skim and rate our video clips and go through the parts that we really know we're going to use. And I'll show you a nice quick keystroke method to do that. And then we're going to rename some of the clips for even faster sorting and then apply tags. So we've got a couple different steps here. And like I said before, I will spend a lot of time doing this. So let's say I have a wedding edit. It's a 25-minute feature film. And I know it's going to take me 7 days to edit it. Okay, because that's generally what it takes on average for me to do one of my features. I really spend a lot of time making them as close to perfect as it can be. I will spend a good half a day to maybe a full day just organizing. And that actually keeps it from becoming a 9-day project. So if I'm editing later on and I don't have to go searching around for something that I know was in there, it's like, you're going through your media browser going, I know this clip is in here somewhere. Where the heck is it? I can just type in a keyword and boom, there it is. And I can pull it down onto my project timeline and start working with it. So tags are really, really helpful for doing that. So let's get right to it. We're going to switch back over to the Final Cut system over here. And we're in Final Cut right now, but we're going to actually go outside of Final Cut to look at our file structure. So I'm just going to come up here and hide Final Cut Pro. And we have our 2 hard drives that are inside the terminal right here on the desktop, just for easy finding, I guess you could say. And work drive is where we're storing all of our media. So I'm going to click this, and right away you're going to see, whoa, that doesn't look like the standard Finder window. That's because I went through and spent a lot of time sorting these video clips into folders and then arranging them by labels, which are the colored labels, to really separate them so at a glance I can tell what's what. All right, I highly suggest you develop a system or copy mine to help you keep track of things on drives. If you just have a drive that you open up and it just looks like a mash of stuff, it's much harder to kind of go through and say, where was that folder that had these clips in it? I know right at a glance. The green are my workshop assets. So everything that I know I needed for this workshop on this drive is right here in these green folders. So anything that these are assets that maybe later on in the workshop I'm going to import and use. I know, well, if I need my still images, there they are. I know it's in a green folder, I can go right to it. And you'll see here that I've actually made Finder label the headings here. And the way I did that was I went into Finder and I go to Preferences, and under Labels, I give my individual colored labels titles. All right, so anything that I label as red is going to be for Final Cut. Anything I label orange is going to be a job folder, meaning it's a particular shoot or a project that I'm doing for a client. Green are workshop assets in this case, and I'll change this from drive to drive, just depending on what I need. And then anything DVD or Blu-ray related might be purple. So this really helps me to kind of sort things out much, much more efficiently. So down here under the red, we have remember we talked about these in the first segment, this is our Final Cut events and Final Cut projects folders. We don't ever mess with these, we just leave them alone. But they have to be on the hard drive, and they are together, and I've got them tagged as red, so I know don't touch them. It's my little fail-safe. Anything red, I don't touch. Down here, the orange folders are my job folders, and these are the two projects we're going to primarily be using during the course of this workshop. We have the yoga footage from Vanessa's yoga promo video for her yoga creative live workshop. And then we also have a wedding that I just recently shot and edited. So we have both of those to work with. So what we're going to be primarily working with right now are just these job folders, all right? Because the footage we're going to work with in this segment is the yoga footage, all right? So if I just zoom in here, you'll see job folders, CL yoga, all right? Now, watch what happens when I expand this. You don't see anything. There we go. Zoom in down here a little bit. You can see here that I've color-coded these folders too. All right, and any of you who watched my cinema workshop know that this was covered at length because this is how I organize all of my shoots. All right, when I get home from a job, after I've shot, I set it up exactly like this, regardless if it's a wedding or if it's a corporate shoot or anything. It gets sorted into folders like this. The first folder is red, and that's footage, okay? And underneath that, I have my footage separated into B-roll. Let me explain what B-roll is for people who may not know. B-roll are basically they're cover shots. Okay, these are clips of video that I'm going to use to tell my story, and my main action and my dialogue would be in an interview format. So if I have a talking head, somebody talking, and then while they're talking about cupcakes, and I cut to some shots of cupcakes, those shots of cupcakes are B-roll. Okay, so I've separated my B-roll and my main action into separate folders. So I have my interview, and I've got my B-roll, and then my B-roll is further organized into group shots, which are shots of, here I can just actually kind of preview these for you. Let me just zoom out. I'll preview one of these for you. These are group shots of Vanessa demonstrating yoga techniques. And there's more than one person in the shot, constitutes it as a group shot. Then I have solo shots, which I know are just Vanessa, and these are organized into their own folders, okay? This just helps me right off the bat when I import this footage as is in this folder structure into Final Cut Pro 10. You're going to see what happens. Final Cut Pro 10 is going to keep that folder structure for me and actually tag these clips based on the folder names. All right, very cool stuff. I'll explain in a minute. All right, so my footage is always organized like this. Let me just show you real quick what a wedding would look like. And this is the footage we're going to use tomorrow when we walk you through an entire workflow for a wedding. We have the same similar folder structure here. If I drop down footage, lots more happening here though. I've got this broken down into day parts. I've got a folder for all my ceremony footage, and then all my camera operators or jibs, and it's all subdivided from there. Dancing footage from the parties, all lumped into one, and we'll explain why later on. They are broken down by camera operator, but they're all kind of mixed together by camera op. Establishing shots. So what we do is we kind of go through and just organize these into subfolders that help me to keep them organized before I even touch Final Cut Pro 10. All right? So footage is all broken up like that. Audio, same sort of thing. If I just tree down the audio here, I've taken all of my external audio. This is audio that's been recorded off camera. All right? I do record with my video with audio on camera, but it's mostly for reference. Okay? The audio that I'm really interested in using is recorded off camera, and it's stored in folders like this. I've actually gone through and renamed all of my audio files. So when I copy the audio files over from the recorder unit onto my media drive or wherever it is I'm going to keep it, I go through and actually take the time to rename these clips. All right? This way I know when I import them into Final Cut, I don't have 15 audio files with all of the same name of one. because by default, my audio recorder is going to name them by numbers. All right, so I want to be able to differentiate them right out of the gate. So that's how I would do that. So they're broken down into day part, and they're labeled for what they actually are. I highly encourage you guys to get into the habit of doing this. It's one of those things that's personal preference, but for me, this really speeds up my workflow when I get into Final Cut Pro 10. Let me come back out here and go back into the yoga folder again. And you're going to see here, footage, like we just showed you, audio. There's only one audio clip. All right, so I don't have it subdivided into another folder. It's just Vanessa's interview, because that's the only audio we recorded from the shoot. All right, these other folders here we're going to use later on. In fact, I think I already used this one. Yes, there's some graphics in here. If you watched Vanessa's promo video on creativelive.com, you might have seen the title over her video. I designed this in Photoshop, so I'm keeping it in a graphics folder in my project. All right, just helps me to keep everything in one place. And what's nice is Final Cut is smart. When I import all this stuff into Final Cut Pro 10, I can tell Final Cut, hey, I'm afraid that one day I might wake up and maybe I had a few too many glasses of wine the night before, and I make a mistake and move one of these folders. I can actually tell Final Cut, you know what? To prevent that, when you import this footage, I want you to copy all of this stuff into the events folder. Okay? It's doubling our space. I know, it's taking up more space on the drive, but I'd rather have everything localized into Final Cut Pro 10 so I don't have missing media later on. All right? But that's why I organize all this stuff so it's all in one place. So that's the graphics folder. The Pluralize folder, we'll get into what Pluralize is later on. Pluralize really, in a nutshell, is a program that we use to sync up our footage with our audio. All right? It's a lot harder to do if you have to do it manually. Pluralize makes it really simple. We'll demonstrate that in this program. All right? Complete, this folder down here is mainly for the final output. When I'm done with my project and I export it out to a digital file that I was going to, so for example, we gave this is the file we gave to Creative Live. We uploaded this file to them. It's stored in this folder. And you'll see here, this is Vanessa's video or the promo for her workshop. Okay? So that's what the complete folder is for. I don't deviate from this system ever. The moment I deviate from this system, I'll pop in another drive, and if it's not the same, it's just, what happened? It's like, you know, everything's supposed to be regimented and organized. And it's not because I'm anal retentive. It's because I just want there to be consistency. When you have multiple editors in a studio all working on the same projects or all working together, you got to make sure there's organization, otherwise you're going to have problems. All right? So take the time, go through and organize your footage. We're going to be working with the CL Yoga footage in this segment. So it's now pre-organized for us to work in Final Cut Pro 10. Let's go back into Final Cut. We are now ready to start importing our footage. Before we do that, let's check our preferences panel. There's a couple things we got to make sure are going on. If I click preferences here and I go to editing, okay, everything that we set up before is still the same way. If I click on playback, background rendering is turned on, which means if I import footage and it requires rendering or transcoding or analysis of some kind, Final Cut Pro will immediately start doing that the moment I bring the footage in. If I uncheck this box, it really won't do much to it. It'll just let me import it, okay? But at this moment in time, I'm going to let it do what I think it wants to do, and we'll fine-tune this a little bit later on. Let me talk for a second about transcoding footage, because this kind of goes hand in hand with importing media into Final Cut Pro 10, okay? DSLR shooters, raise your hand. How many of you are shooting with DSLRs? Okay, every hand in the studio went up. And I would stake a bet that maybe 80% of our audience out there watching this is shooting with DSLRs. This is a guess. If I'm wrong, sue me. But basically, that footage that comes out of those cameras is not really meant for editing. Okay? It's H.264 is the codec that they use. All right? It's basically it's a highly compressed video format. It's not the best quality for editing. And if you have a slower system trying to edit that footage natively, meaning just take it from the camera, bring it in and start editing it, you might have performance problems, okay? And I don't mean ED, all right? I'm talking about performance issues with your computer. So you want to convert your footage into a format that's more easily handled and can be a little bit higher quality when we get into later stages of editing like color grading. So the nice thing about Final Cut Pro 10 is it will do that for you in the background. Okay, a couple things you need to know here. When we import our footage, Final Cut will ask us, Do you want me to okay, I notice you have DSLR footage here. Do you want me to transcode this footage to Apple ProRes 422? What Apple ProRes 422 is a better quality editing format. And it's Apple designed, so it's designed to work with Final Cut Pro 10. By default, and don't worry, we'll reiterate this if we have to later on, by default, Final Cut Pro 10 will want to transcode your footage into ProRes 422. Okay? That's all you need to know for right now. There's another type of transcoding called proxy. And what proxy will do is allow you to work with lower resolution versions of your footage for faster editing. So if you have a system that's maybe not as robust as the one we're working on today, and you want to work faster without having to worry about playback lag or system issues, you would want to transcode into proxy media. Okay? It's not going to change anything about your original media. It's going to create new video clips that are about 1/4 the quality of your original clips. What this playback dialog here is allowing us to choose, once Final Cut has done that, whether we want to edit using our proxy media or we want to edit using our original or optimized ProRes 422 media. Okay, I know that's a mouthful. I know it's a lot to digest. But basically, Final Cut's asking us, do you want me to use the low-res version so you can edit faster? Or do you want me to take a chance and use what you've told me to use, which is right out of the camera, and edit it that way? It's up to you. And by the way, do you want better performance or high quality? Okay? So those parameters are really important before you even import your footage. Decide that, because there's going to be some questions asked of you when we import our footage that you're going to need to know. Okay.
Before we go too far beyond where you just were, there were some discussions in the chat room. Zach Purnell says, wait, so he is organizing it in Finder right now. Does he import to Finder, then Final Cut, or Final Cut, then reorganizes them in Finder? He said that they were all chatting about it.
Always organize in Finder first.
Okay, so Zach
Here's the
and
thing.
everyone else.
Yeah, if you bring your media into Final Cut first, and then go back into Finder and reorganize it, Final Cut's going to get pissed. We don't want Final Cut to get pissed. All right. Once things are brought into Final Cut, you do not change them anywhere. That's it. Once they're in, they're in. Leave them there. Especially when we tell Final Cut, hey, copy this media into my Final Cut events folder and leave it there. All right. Yeah, don't change anything. So the workflow is organize outside of Final Cut first, then bring your media into Final Cut, which is our next step. All right, cool. All right, before we bring in our media, we have to tell Final Cut where we want that media stored. Do we want to create a new event for our media, or do we want to put it into an existing event? Remember, over here in our event library, if I drop down our work drive, which is where our media is stored, if I click on the root drive, it shows me all the clips associated with that hard drive. If I click on any one of these events, it's just going to show me the files we imported into that event. Okay? So I can add new media to any one of these events. That's fine. But they have to be associated with an event. All right? So what I'm going to do here is click on my work drive, because I know that's where that's where my media is stored. That's where my Final Cut events and Final Cut projects folders are. So I want to bring in my media into an event on that drive. So we're going to click Work Drive, and we're going to come down here to Import Media. This can also be accomplished by Command-I. It's going to open up the Media Import dialog window. All right? So what you're basically looking at here is just a different visual representation of your hard drive. Okay, we're clicking on Work Drive up here in the Devices tab, or Devices segment. And we're going to go down, because we're going to be working with our, now, well, notice one thing. My color codes are gone, right? Color codes don't show up in Final Cut Pro 10. That's unfortunate. Hopefully one day they'll add that back in so I can see my color codes. So I kind of have to search for that folder. Well, there it is, CL Yoga. That's the footage we're going to be working with, okay? Now, I can choose to import this entire folder. If I do that, it's going to import all of this stuff. All right? And it's going to do it in such a way that it will even keyword tag my footage based on what I have it named here. We'll get to that more in a second. But I don't want it to do that just yet. I just want to import my footage and my audio from Vanessa's yoga video. All right? So if I just drop down this key tab, you see here I have two folders, what we showed you before, B-roll and Vanessa's interview. And in my audio tab, remember, there was only one audio clip, and there it is. If I highlight a clip in the import window, I can actually go through and skim through it if I want. Now, that's just an audio clip. If I come down to one of my video clips and just select one of these, I can skim through it. Or I can press the space bar and play it back. If I turn up my audio, I'll hear the audio that's on there. Okay? So I can actually go through my shots if I want to and just decide which ones I want to bring in. But since I've already organized these ahead of time, and I know these are shots that I'm probably going to end up using for the most part, I'm just going to grab the two main folders that I want to bring in, which in this case is footage and audio. I'm just holding Shift and clicking on it to select another one, so footage and audio. If I wanted to bring in my graphics also, I can just click Command or hold Command and click on it, and it'll select that folder as well. So let's just bring in these three. We'll bring in graphics and stills also, and you're going to see what happens here when I click Import Selected. All right? Let's go ahead and do that. We're ready to bring it in. When I click Import Selected, oh, wow. Final Cut has some more questions for me. This is paramount. This window right here will determine whether you have a good experience editing or a bad experience editing. All right? Because there's some really heavy questions are going to be posed to you right here. Let me zoom in on this and just kind of give you the rundown. We have a couple different options for events. Final Cut wants to know where I want this footage to end up when I import it into Final Cut. Well, I don't want it in this event, color correcting grade. That's for later in our workshop. I don't want that right now. I want it actually to be in a new event. So if I wanted to add it to any one of these existing events, I could do so right here. If I want to create a new event, I click Create New Event, and let's give it a title. Make sure you are putting it on the drive that your media is supposed to belong on. In this case, it's our work drive. Remember, we don't want to have media on the Mac HD or system hard drive. Whatever you have it named, you don't want to have it on the system hard drive. So work drive, that's good. I'm going to name it, let's just call this Day 1 Tutorial. All right, that's going to be our new event. Final Cut Pro is going to create a new event in the Final Cut Events folder. All right, and this is going to be the house, the little box where we store all of the media that we bring in. Down here, very important questions as well. The first one it's going to ask me is organization or organizing. Final Cut's going to say, do you want me to copy all of this footage that you're asking me to bring in into the Final Cut Events folder? This way, if you go moving your directory around, if you go moving those color-coded folders, or you eject the drive, actually ejecting the drive would unlink them anyway, or if you move any of those color-coded folders, you'll still have these files in the events folder. Okay? I would highly suggest you do this if you're new to Final Cut Pro 10. All right? Always have this selected. All right? What's going to happen, though, when I click Import and I have this checked is it's going to start doing that in the background. And that's going to end up, depending on your system, slowing your system down, or just, you're going to notice that it's happening in the background. Just for the sake of this workshop, let's pretend I have it checked, but I'm going to uncheck it. All right? It's a case of do as I say, not as I do. Check it for yours. When you go home and you start working with footage, you definitely want to copy your files in the Final Cut Events folder. Just prevents things from getting lost. We don't want Final Cut to get pissed. Okay? Import folders as keyword collections. If I check this, what it's going to do is take these folders, and not just the one that says 1 footage, 2 audio. It's going to take each of these folders, and the names of the folders are going to be applied to each of these clips as keywords. All right? So this clip, which is named MVI0024, if I tell Final Cut, import as keyword collections, it's going to apply 1.footage as a keyword tag in the metadata. It's going to apply B-roll as a keyword tag. It's going to apply group shots as a keyword tag. It's going to apply CL Yoga as a tag. So, I'm sorry, 1.footage, not CL Yoga, because that's outside the 1footage directory. Forgive me. So basically, all of these clips will have these keyword tags associated with them. You'll see what happens in a second when I have that checked. It's actually going to put them into an organizational structure called keyword collections. We'll get into that in just a minute. All right? So let's go here back to our dialog window and see what other questions Final Cut has for us. Let's just go ahead and grab each of these again. And I'm backtracking here because I wanted to back out and show you that. So we're going to keep that selected. I'm just going to uncheck that, pretend it's checked. Transcoding. This is where we get into where we talked about a few minutes ago about optimized media and proxy media. Okay? This is really important at this stage of the game. Do we want Final Cut to take these media files and make optimized ProRes 422 media out of them? I would suggest yes, you do. Okay? Again, it's going to do it in the background. So depending on your system configuration, it might slow you down. So just take that into consideration before you import your footage. You can always pause it once we're in Final Cut, but just take it into consideration because we can always optimize it later on. This is not the end-all, be-all. If you don't do it here, if you don't do your transcoding here, we could always go back and do it later on, but it gives you the option to do it. If we want to work with 1/4 quality video media or audio media, just click Create Proxy Media. It will create proxy media also in the background. All right? I'm going to uncheck them for now because I don't want the system to be doing something in the background during the broadcast. All right? Video and audio. These two things are automated controls that Final Cut has to analyze and fix potential problems with your footage and audio. I don't generally let Final Cut do this. I find that I like to do my color balancing, my color grading, my organization of my files, any audio problems. I sort of like to just fix it manually. I feel like I have a lot more control. However, if you want to see what Final Cut can do to your footage and audio by checking these, it's not going to hurt you later on to do this because we can always turn it off. We can always turn off any results that it produced off later on. So for the sake of this, I'm not going to turn them on because, again, this is something it's going to do in the background. All of this stuff's going to happen in the background. All right? So we want to just take it into consideration when we're working in the program. All right. So we're ready to import our media. At this point, all I'm going to have selected is import folders as keyword collections, and we're going to assume that these files are being copied. Well, the question is, what happens if we don't select copy files? In that case, and you're going to see this, Final Cut is now just pointing to my video files. So if they get moved, Final Cut's going to get pissed, right? We don't want Final Cut to get pissed. If one of those gets deleted, we're going to have a missing file. So it's just using reference clips. It's not actually working with the transcoded media. If we chose to not copy the files but transcode our media, when the transcoding is done, we don't have to worry about the files being copied because the transcoded media, meaning the 422 ProRes, and the proxy media automatically gets stored in the Final Cut events folder. Again, it's another fail-safe that Final Cut has to make sure all of your media stays in one place. It's very cool. Very, very good things that Final Cut is trying to do. All right, so let's import. So we've selected footage, audio, and graphics and stills. Import folders as keyword collections. Let's watch what happens. This might take a second. So we're going to click import. Final Cut's going to go through its little phases. It says processing files for import. Now, DSLR users. You may or may not, in your folder, when you take your footage off your memory card, you might have some folders with a file type extension .thm. That's a thumbnail file. Final Cut won't import those. So if I did that, if I imported footage or folders that had those THM files in here, it would just give me a dialog box saying, hey, what are these THM files? We don't use those. And it would just say continue, and we just move on. So I always go through and remove them because I don't use them. So it's just one less step I have to deal with. Okay, so now we have a new event on our work drive. So work drive, and our new event is called tutorial. And look at this. These are keyword collections. Remember I said when we import it, it's going to assign keyword tags to that footage? Well, there it is. All right? So what I have here in the audio folder is an audio file. That's our sole audio file. If I click on this, these are our graphics and stills. And in here, you'll see that graphic for the yoga video. And then here's our footage. All of our group shots are in a keyword collection called group shots. How do I know it's a keyword collection? It's got this little blue icon with a key on it. That's a keyword collection. So the folders that I had created to sort my video footage, when I imported it into Final Cut Pro 10, it automatically created these bins, so to speak. They're not really bins, they're just keyword collections. If I click on the root of tutorial here, just like this, it'll show me all of the video files that are in all of these keyword collections. But if I just want to see only the group shots, there's only my group shots. If I want to see only my solo shots of Vanessa, there's my solo shots of Vanessa. Just the interview, there's just my interview clips. Graphics and stills and audio are in here. Okay. Notice how, remember we went over this in the first segment, we sorted things by file type. It's sorting them in the event browser here as QuickTime Movies. And if I click on the audio, you'll see waveform audio. It's nice. Right off the bat, we have instant organization in Final Cut Pro 10. So import as keyword collections is really powerful if you've already pre-sorted your footage. Really great stuff. We can take this much, much further. Okay? Let's say we really want to get into organization. We have a lot of different options. Let me show you my next step. What I would generally do in this case now is start renaming some of these files. Okay? Because if I wanted to, I could start going through them, and I could start pulling out parts of these clips that I really want to use, or I could, say, okay, this is great, let's make that a favorite, and we're going to get to that, all right? But what I want to show you first is something really powerful called Apply Custom Name. This is cool. So here, we go into group shots, and we have shots of, okay, here's Vanessa with two other people, and they're standing. And these are shots of Vanessa and people being seated or sitting down. This is a close-up shot, and this is a close-up shot, and this is a really wide shot. I can further break these down into either more keyword collections or just rename these clips. Let's do some more keyword collections, okay? So let's say I want to set up a keyword collection for all the clips where Vanessa and her yoga pupils here are seated, all right? I'm just going to go through, and I'm just going to clear this rating. See this little range that I dragged here? Well, I don't want that, so I'm just going to hit Option X, and it's just going to clear that. Let's say I want to take all the ones of them sitting down and put them into their own keyword collection. Well, I could just grab, let me just get rid of that. I'm just going to Option X out of that. Option X out of this one too, just to remove these ranges. So the idea here is I want to select the entire clip. So, all right, so they're seated in that one. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hold Command, and I'm going to find the other ones where they're all sitting. Okay, they're seated there. They're not seated anywhere else. Let me see. Are they seated in this one? Yeah, it looks like they're seated in that one. They are seated in this one. They're laying down in that one. That one they're getting ready to lay down, so we'll leave that alone. This one they're seated, so let's do that. And they're seated in this one too. And this one they're just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, cool. So I've selected these clips. Now, if I want to put them into a different keyword collection, and I can have as many keyword collections as I want, and I just want to say, okay, let's put all these into their own category, I can come down here to my keyword editor. You'll see that they're already labeled as group shots because we already have this keyword collection entitled group shots. But I'm just going to tag these clips as seated. Watch very closely to the clips that I've selected, meaning these two right here where they're sitting down. When I click Enter, watch what happens. It dropped keyword tags onto those clips that I've selected. Now it's assigned both the keyword tag of group shots and seated. And if I zoom out here and go over to the event library, you'll now see that I have a new keyword collection called seated. All of the shots of them sitting are now in here.
I feel like that deserves like an ooh.
Dude, that is so cool. And let me tell you something. When I first started working in this program, I had to get my, all right, so traditional video editing programs, if you wanted to do that, you would just go, okay, folder, seated, and grab a whole bunch of, and just throw them in there. Okay? But you couldn't search for them by that folder or keyword name later on. They would just have to go navigate to that folder, drop it down, and there's all those clips. Here, there's actually a filter option, which we're going to get to in a few minutes, that allows me just to search for those. Boom. All right, but I want to show you an even easier way to make this happen.
And quick question related to keywords. Zach Purnell asked when you add keywords, does it add them to the original and the proxy optimized version, or just the one you do it to?
All of it. Okay, so let's say, for example, to answer that question, that I told Final Cut Pro 10, when I import my footage, optimize all this stuff. Make it all ProRes and give me proxy versions too. All right? And when I do a project, realistically, guys, I don't sit here and watch paint dry while it's transcoding in the background. If I tell Final Cut, if I know I'm going to work on a project tomorrow, the night before, I'll import all my media and say, transcode it. And I'll walk away and go to sleep. And then next morning, I come in and everything's done. So you have two choices. You can either do it that way, or you can sit and let it do it in the background, and you can continue to work with the native media, which is what we're doing here. Doesn't matter. Keyword collections are not, it's just, keyword collections are just showing you what these clips are assigned to as far as groups. And these clips may or may not be optimized. It just depends on if we've done the transcoding or not. I know it's confusing. We'll get there, all right? But as far as keyword tagging goes, that's how we do it. Little keyword icon down here. We can also hit Command-K. Excuse me, that opens up our keyword window. And I can take this another step further. I can click back. Oh, by the way, if you're in a keyword collection and you want to go back to seeing all the clips, because right now we're only seeing the ones that are tagged seated, I can come in here to tutorial, and now I'm back viewing all of my clips. Okay? So I can create another one for standing. I can do one for the ones that they're laying down. I could do ones where it's just, Vanessa alone. Well, we already have that. It's called solo shots. So there's lots of different options here for organizing. But this is the part that really blew my mind when I figured it out. All right, so let's say, for example, I want to, all right, well, let me draw a contrast and comparison here. Let's say I want to search for all of my seeded clips, but I've got like 30 or 40 keyword collections. And let's just say, for example, this list just goes on and on and on and on and on. There's like so many keyword collections. And every time I want to do that, I have to kind of scroll down through the event library here and find the keyword collection. Well, that can get a little bit tedious. Up here in the top of the event browser, there's this nifty little window, okay? And this nifty little window up here allows me to search by typing in here. Okay? But the problem with that is, when we're just using keyword collections is, if I come up here and type seeded, it's not going to show me anything, even though we've got these organized into a keyword collection called seeded. Why? Well, that takes us to our filter dialog. We need to go into our filter dialog to see why that's not happening. Well, if I hit Command F, this opens up a panel called the filter dialog. All right? Now, what this window will allow me to do is search for things in my event library by certain parameters. Right now, it's only searching by text, meaning it's only searching by file name. Okay? So it's only, I'm just going to exit out of here for a second so you can kind of see. I'm just going to remove this. If I click this, it's only searching by these titles, MVI. So you'll see, if I go here and type seeded, it's not going to show me my seeded thing. I have to click on the keyword collection. But if I go in to my filter settings and I uncheck text, or leave it checked, whatever you want to do, and then come up here to this little plus box and go to keywords, now I can filter and sort by keywords by unchecking and checking these boxes. Not very efficient. Listen, I know guys that use this workflow and it works great for them and they like it, and that's great. I have a different method that I like to use. So if I wanted to search only by seeded, I can click seeded here, and now you'll notice now it's just showing me my seeded clips. Well, it's no different than just coming over here and clicking on seeded. All right? And this filter, this search box can be so much more powerful if we take a few more steps and do a little bit further organization of all of our clips. So watch this. Let's go back into the root of our event library, and let's look at all of our clips here. You notice that the file names of these clips are all what they came out of the camera. MVI 0021, MVI 0029. Well, I want to separate these all and be able to search right here for whatever clips I want to find. There's a great little feature called Apply Custom Name, and it's found up here in the Modify, Apply Custom Name menu. All right? Check this out. I'm going to go up here to Modify, Apply Custom Name, and I'm going to go to Edit. Okay? We have this really scary looking dialog box. Don't let it scare you. All this stuff down here, don't worry about it yet. All this stuff over here, don't worry about it yet. This is stuff I've actually created most of this. Okay? And when I'm doing weddings, you notice here that I've got different categories for bride gift, bride dressing, bride details, ceremony, and you see these initials. These are the first initial of my camera people. That's me. So these are all custom names that I've set up, where I actually will go and batch rename my files in my event browser for easy sorting. So check this out. Let's say, for example, and I'm going to exit out of here just to illustrate a point. Let's say, for example, I'm looking at all this footage related to yoga, but I want to be able to search for it by 2-shot, 3-shot, close-up. And you don't have to do camera angles. It can be anything. It could be lying down. It could be seated. It could be any, things that we may have used over here before. Solo shots, whatever. Check this out. Modify, Apply Custom Name, Edit. I'm going to go up here to the top. I'm going to go down here, actually, and I'm going to click on this little plus icon. And I'm going to get rid of where it says current name, because I don't want to search by the current file name. I want to give it a custom name. All right? So I'm going to come down here to where it says clip info, and I'm going to drag up custom name. All right? See where it says untitled? That means I haven't really typed anything in the custom name thing here yet, so it doesn't know what to name it yet. It just knows I want to rename my clip something. All right? Then I'm also going to add this counter one. And what that's going to do is allow me, whoops, getting a little overzealous there. Get in there, you. There we go. That's going to start putting numbers after the custom name. So if I've got multiple files that I want to rename, I can just give them numbers and it'll rename them all and give them numbers, okay? The only other thing I have to do is come down here to where it says custom name and type in let's start creating categories of what we want to name our clips. So let's go with sitting. Okay? We want increments to start at 1. The first number should be 1, numeral 1. Sitting, okay? Good. I come over here and I just rename this sitting so I know what it is when I look at it later on. We'll get there in a minute. Okay? I'm done. I'm going to right-click, duplicate it. Now I don't have to change this anymore because it's already done because I've just duplicated it here. I'm going to give it a new name. We're going to call this one laying down or lying down, whatever. Okay? Come down here, custom name, laying down. So a few extra minutes of doing this, and I'm setting my stage for some really easy organization later on. Okay? Good. Totally happy with that. Let's create a couple more. Let's go. Let's duplicate it. Let's see. What else do I want to categorize my footage by? Close-ups. Why not? Close-ups. Come down here. Close-ups. Boom. Done. Next one. And I'll just do one more. Okay, so let's do, I don't know, ball. Because I know we have the yoga ball. So ball. Call it ball. In here, ball. Good. Done. Click OK, or just make sure that one saves. There you go. We have our 4 new apply custom name presets. I'm going to click OK and check this out. Let's go in here. Let's find all the clips that are close-ups. That's close-up. I'm holding Command, and I'm just going to select other clips. Close-up. Close-up. And I may not get them all. This is just to illustrate a point. Okay? Watch this. Let's zoom back out. Modify. Apply custom name. Close-ups. Watch the file names where you see that yellow box. Boom. Renames it. Okay? So now I've got all these files that are renamed Close-ups 1, Close-up 2, Close-up 3. Okay? Now watch this. Let's say I'm knee-deep in footage over here. And let's say I don't see my close-ups. I come over here, simply type in here, close-ups. There's all my close-ups. All right? And let's take it a step further. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back in here. Let's find the clip that has the ball on it. And again, you know, this works best when you have a lot of media clips. We're not really working with a whole lot of media clips here. But if you really want to make sorting a lot easier, this is the way to do it. Modify, apply custom name, ball. These would be wide shots. Let's go lying. I think we made one for lying down, right? So here's 2 lying down. Let's do that. Apply custom name, lying down. All right? So we're buried in this stuff. We can just come up here. You don't even have to type the full thing. Just type the first couple letters, and it's going to find them. Boom, done. Lying down. Ball. There's my ball shot. So when I'm down here in the project and I'm working, and I'm just trying to get things done fast, I don't want to have to come up here, click, go through my footage and find things. It's like I know I have 3 ball shots. Boom, ball. There's all my ball shots. I want to get them all. I want all my close-ups. There's my close-ups. Okay? Take a little extra time. Go through the program and organize things. It really, really helps to be much faster. And that's just my workflow. If you have another workflow out there that works for you a little bit better, by all means, that's great. It's all about personal preference. This is what I do. And when I'm working with a wedding where I've got 10 hours of footage and 4 camera persons, this is invaluable to me because I can start concentrating on my story and not have to think about every 5 minutes, oh, where's that shot? Oh, God, I got to go up here again. Where's that? Oh, that's such a pain. And you'll see tomorrow when I'm editing, I've already got my apply custom names set up for tomorrow right here. And we're just going to go through and tag them all tomorrow. Super fast. It's awesome. Okay?
I feel like we're all just breathing easier. This is going to be so helpful in organizing footage.
It's incredible.
Brilliant.
It really is.
Quick question. When you're importing footage from your multiple cameramen with a same file name, how do you handle that? Like MVI_017 or something like that?
That doesn't really bother Final Cut too much if you have files of the same name. It really doesn't bother it. Final Cut knows from the metadata it's a different file, so it's not going to try to replace it or overwrite it or anything like that. If you have the same clip and then you try to bring it in, it wouldn't even bother it either. Final Cut's pretty resilient like that and pretty forgiving when it comes to file names. I would highly suggest what I do, and this is why we sort everything out ahead of time in the work drive or in the project folder, the job folder, I should say. Here's my wedding that we're going to be working with tomorrow. Everything is regimented in the footage folder by camera person. So when it brings it in, I'll have these will become keyword collections. All of N's photo session will become a keyword collection. I want to look at only N's photo session. Click on the keyword collection. There's only his clips. Doesn't matter what they're named. Now I can go through and rename these using apply custom name, walking, wide shot, bride alone, group shot. And I can search for those instantaneously just by using that wonderful little search feature right here. This box is so much more powerful when you use apply custom name. All right? So I don't have to worry. And keyword tagging is great. Don't get me wrong. Keyword tagging is awesome. And it creates these awesome keyword collections. But I like to be able to search really fast. You know? Teachable moment. Why didn't that work? Okay? I just typed ball. Why didn't ball show up in here? Well, I wasn't on the root of the event. I'm in solo shots. What Final Cut's telling me is, hey man, there's no shot that you rename ball in this keyword collection. You've got to click out to your main. I'm mostly here on my main event, and now I can just navigate to any of the ones I want. Lying down, you know, close-ups, that sort of thing. All right, so just make sure that you keep, you know, this selected so you're searching through all of your clips. Let's start working with media up here in the media browser, because now it's time to start getting ready for this footage to be edited. So the first thing we have to do is decide what parts of these clips I want to actually use. And this is where ratings come in. This is where we start rating clips as favorites or rejections. Okay? And the way this is going to work is we're just going to go through our footage in a couple different ways to determine the shots we're going to use. So I'm going to get some audio here, guys. I'm just going to have a little bit of sound here so we can kind of hear what we're doing. And I'm going to use this first clip. And this is Vanessa doing her interview. Now, she did this like in 20 takes. And it's all in one clip. So I'm only going to be using one take of each of her script parts. So I need to go through this fast. Well, I can sort of get in here and go scrubbing through. And by the way, just so you know, we can set in and out points by clicking I. And actually, let me zoom out so you can see the keystrokes. I to set an in point, space bar to play it, O to set an out point, and it will select a range of clip. Okay, this is video editing 101. We have to set ins and outs a lot of times to get what we want. So let me just play this.
You have to be flexible to do yoga, or that it's all about flexibility.
Okay, let me back down here. Let me zoom in. See how difficult it is to work with this long clip like this? So I'm just going to use the slider here just to zoom in on that clip so I can see a little bit more detail and get a little bit closer up on this. So let's start right about here and see where what Vanessa says.
I even had to get cortisone shots in parts of my back because my muscles just wouldn't relax.
Okay, so that's a good statement. It's a good soundbite I want to use right there. So I'm going to use keyboard keys J, K, and L. You guys might want to get a shot of this over here. J, K, and L on my keyboard. And it's nice because my little custom keyboard cover has, on the J key, reverse. On the K key, it says stop. On the forward key, it says L. All right? And I can use my three fingers right here, my index finger, middle finger, and ring finger, just to go back. Watch how I navigate through this. J to reverse. K to stop. I want to play it back. I hit L.
I even had to get cortisone shots in parts of my back because my muscles just wouldn't relax.
K to stop. So I can search through my footage. The more times I press J or L to go forward and backwards, the faster it's going to go. Watch this. I'll hit J like 3 times. Okay? Hit L a couple times forward. All right, so it's going to move a lot faster. So J, K, and L are great for that. Now, we need to set ranges. We need to kind of determine what we're going to actually take and use later on, right? So we have to set in and out points, all right? So right on top of keys J, K, and L are keys I and O. I is set start. O is set end. So I'm basically going to go to the beginning of that soundbite using J, K, and L. I'm going to navigate there, use my space bar to play.
The weight of carrying.
Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to back up. Okay, now I'm at the beginning of her soundbite. I'm going to hit I to set the in, hit my space bar to play, or I could hit L.
The weight of carrying all my photo gear and then spending my weeks slouched at the computer was making photography so much less enjoyable for me.
Hit stop, the space bar or K, either one will work. Hit O, and that's going to set the range. Now you'll notice I have this yellow range over my clip here. Okay, and that's in essence, that's basically just going through and what we call skimming the footage and just picking out shots that we want. Now, this is what's really cool. I know I want to use that, but I also know I want to use another part of Vanessa talking over here as well. So I'm just going to come a little further here, and I'm going to do my JK and L thing again and just kind of find another soundbite. So let's press L.
During this I don't know what to say, 4-day workshop, because it's 4 mornings.
Right, we don't want to use that. So I'm just going to fast forward. Okay, we'll take it from right here. And by the way, guys, I'm looking at the waveform here, and I can kind of tell where she starts and stops talking. It really is helpful. So let's just start right here. We'll hit L, see where she's at.
In yoga for...
All right, I know I want to start there. Let's back up, hit I, L to go forward.
In yoga for photographers.
And by the way, since I have not set an out point yet, you can see that it's selecting the entire rest of the clip. But we don't want that, so let's play it forward.
We are going to address all of the symptoms that photographers have. Back pain, elbow pain, hips, knees, all your joints.
Great, that's my next soundbite. Hit O, and now I've selected that range as well. Okay, but watch what happened. Oh, my first one got erased. It's gone. My first one's gone. Well, why is that? Well, it didn't save it because I didn't hold Command down when I selected that second one. So the JK and L'ing is great if you're going to only pull one clip at a time from a file, but if you need the clip to take multiple parts of a clip, we need to do it a different way. We need to use our mouse. So I'm basically going to go over here and select that first one just by clicking and dragging over that first soundbite to select the range. Hold Command. I'm going to zoom out so you can see the command. Hold Command. Come down to our next soundbite, which is right here, and I know by memorization just by looking at it. Drag over it, and now you'll see that 2 are selected. Okay, that's awesome because when we're editing later on and going through our clips and we want to be able to pull multiple clips down at the timeline, that's how you would do it. You could do them one by one too. It's all personal preference. Again, this is the way I like to do it. Okay, let's take organization to another level. All right, now that we've just gone through and selected a couple of clips here, and by the way, that's my entire workflow for going through my footage. I'm basically just gonna go through all my clips, JK and L it. L, let's back up. Start here. I, go forward. Whoop, I.
Foot to thigh, hands to prayer, and shoot up.
There we go. Hit O, and that's it. And I would just keep doing this for all my footage. Now let's say I do that, and I've got all these shots selected here that I know I want to use. Well, watch this. I can come up here and click and hit the button F on the keyboard. And what you're going to notice happen here is going to happen right above this blue line. And by the way, this blue line represents the fact that this clip is in a keyword collection. All right? Blue lines on clips like that mean they are part of a keyword collection. Blue means keyword. Watch what happens when I press the key F. Now we have a green line. That green line means I marked it as a favorite. Okay? This part of the clip is a favorite. All right? This part of a clip is also a favorite. Click F. Come down here. We also selected this part. Click F. I've just marked those 3 segments as favorites. Watch this. If I come up here to all clips and click on favorites or hit Control F, watch the event browser. It's only showing me my favorite clips. Not only is it only showing me my favorite clips, it's only showing me the part of that huge clip that I selected. So it's not showing me all this other stuff that's in this clip. It's only showing me the range that I selected. That's really powerful because it means I don't have to look through this large film strip view of a video file. I can just look at the clips I want to use. So do you guys see the progression of organization that I've done? I've organized outside of Final Cut. I've brought them in. I've organized in keyword collections using both the import as keyword collections command and by setting keyword tags using the command K keyword tag. All right? And then I've used an apply custom name to get it down even more specific for sorting. And now I'm applying favorites. That's awesome. I can also keyword tag these individual clips. Let's say I just want to keyword tag these. I don't want to keyword tag all this other stuff. I just want to keyword tag this stuff. Let's say I didn't favorite, or I want to take the favorite off, right? Come down here, click on this little empty star, and now it removed the favorite tag. Well, watch this. I still have those ranges selected, but instead of favoriting them, I want to create a keyword collection for those. So we'll call these good cuts. Command K, or good interview, or good bites. Here, good bites. Watch the tag, or watch the tag apply right there. Good bites. Boom. Move this out of the way, come down to this other one, and we can do the same thing. Now, I don't have to type good bites again. Final Cut's smart. I can drop down this keyword shortcuts, and it saves all the keyword tags that I've used already. It also saves any of the ones that might have been applied during import. So I can come over here and just click this to bring it up there, or just click Control 3. So if I just click that, it applies the tag to that range. Now it's created its own keyword collection for good bites. So there's many, you can see there's many different things that you can do to organize your footage. There's lots of different ways we can do it. So it's up to you to decide what works for you. This is my method. I organize outside of Final Cut. I do keyword collections first. Inside Final Cut, when I import, I do apply custom name, and then I do my tagging, apply custom name, and then keyword filtering like this. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. It just all depends on how you want to do it. I will pause now for questions because that was a lot, and I know there's many different things and ways you can do that. So let's give an opportunity for questions.
Absolutely, this is great information, but there definitely are a couple questions for clarification mostly. Stephen Martin would like to know, does the custom name feature rename the master files on the working drive or just the Final Cut Pro 10 structure within the Final Cut?
It only renames in the program. It doesn't even rename the file in the Final Cut Events folder. So if I have transcoded media of all of my media files, it doesn't rename anything outside of Final Cut. All it does is rename what you're seeing here in the event browser. That's it. Nothing else. Just right here.
A question from Inca. If you have all of this customization and your work drive collapses and you have to re-import the original raw files, does Final Cut Pro match the original files with these customized file names and keywords automatically?
Yes. If you, okay, that's a great question. Let's say we did all this work, and we'll get to you in a second. Let's say we did all this work and our drive failed, but we had a backup that was organized exactly the same way. Which you should. You should always have a backup on a separate drive, maybe even in a separate place, not in your home or office. Yes, you can relink event files. We can basically recreate the event by re-importing the media and then relinking files. There's a whole process that goes along to it. The short answer is yes, you can relink. Yeah. Matt.
Question in the audience.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when you're previewing your video and audio files, are you just doing those in QuickTime and iTunes, or
previewing out? You mean outside of?
Yeah. When you're organizing
all that
them.
basically is yeah. I just use a quick preview, and that's why I love Macs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can just kind of select one of these, click any file, and I can just hit spacebar, and it plays it.
I have another question. The transcoding one, when you're converting to ProRes 4.22 or whatever it's called.
422, yeah.
Do you then have 3 copies of your files?
Yeah.
So do you delete the original ones, or?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
You could, essentially. You run the risk of pissing Final Cut Pro off. Well, here's in actuality the way it works. Okay. So let's say I bring in a bunch of DSLR footage, and I tell Final Cut, transcode it. Give me all ProRes. It'll create the ProRes files, and let me show you where it goes. Work drive, Final Cut events. Okay, yoga, transcoded media. If I've created 422, it stores it in this folder called high quality media. That's where it stores it. If I double click this, all new, brand new QuickTime files. All right? So yes, if I went and deleted all my originals, Final Cut would go, no problem, dude. I got you covered. Here's all your transcoded media right here. You won't get any red clips in Final Cut Pro 10. Red clips are bad. If you ever see red clips in Final Cut Pro 10, it means Final Cut's missing something, or you move something and piss Final Cut Pro off. We don't want to piss Final Cut Pro off. It's become a mantra. All right, so basically, in a nutshell, Transcoded media will stay here, and that's fantastic. If we've created proxy media, it'll also have a folder for proxy media, which I don't have proxy media here. You'd have another folder for proxy media, and then all your proxy media files are also separate. So that's a great segue, too. It actually leads me to teach something, and then we'll come back to questions real quick. So let's say, for example, let me find something that has proxy media so you can kind of see. I think this project does. OK, yes. If I click on a clip here in my event browser, and I look over here at my inspector window, it says, for this clip, available media representations, original, proxy. What that means is it's telling me, OK, dude, I've got all of your, I'm referencing your original footage because you have not yet transcoded the 422, and you told me to make you proxy files, so here's your proxy files, okay? You have them at your disposal, which means in my project, if I come down here, I'm just opening up something that we're going to edit tomorrow, okay? If I come up here into Final Cut Pro Preferences, remember this window that we were showing you earlier where we can toggle back and forth between using proxy or original and optimized? If I click proxy, Final Cut's going to switch over to my proxy media. Now I'm looking at the low-res files here, so it's not going to look nearly as good as if I'm using my original or optimized media. On day 3, we're going to explore this a little bit more because we always want to be using optimized media before we finalize our project. Okay, you can edit and proxy till your heart's content, and it'll speed up your workflow. But before you export that project, you better go back to your optimized or original media. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. But yes, it will create new copies of your files and store them in the Final Cut Events folder. Did that answer your question? Did the 7-minute explanation work? Good.
Alex Cotton from Palm Springs, sorry. When using favorite clips to edit, can you roll out more of the clip if you decide you want it later?
As far as a favorite, well, what you could do, oh, you know what? I didn't even show you rejections. Let's do that too. All right, so let's say, for example, let's go back into our tutorial footage just for ease here. And let's go into something different. Let's go with, hey, let's use our filter. Let's go into ball. Cool. All right, so turn this down. That's loud. All right, so let's say I'm going to use my JKL and just find the part of the clip I want to use. So I'm going to answer this guy's question in a second. So let's start our clip right here. I'm JKLing. I'm going to hit I for import. I'm going to play it forward and stop it right there. That's when I want my clip to stop. I'm going to hit set end. Now I've selected my range, right? So let's zoom in here so you can see. I'm going to hit F. And it would actually help if I did this because you see it a little bit better. When I hit F, now I've got the green line. So what his question is, can I extend that green line? Yes and no. You can come back in here and select the range again, move the range, expand it to where you want it, and then hit F again. It'll add that additional part to the favorite. Okay? So when I go into my favorites, if I view just my favorites, it'll show you that expanded range. Okay? Now, the one thing I didn't show you before was rejections. Let's say, for example, let's just go back into the root of our tutorial footage here. Let's come back up to where the actual video files are. Let's say I don't want this clip. I know I'm not going to use it for some because I like this one better, let's say. All right? Hypothetically speaking. I don't want this one. If I hit delete on my keyboard, it is not going to remove the file from Final Cut. It's not going to put it in the trash. It's going to mark it as rejected. Watch the clip when I hit delete, the big delete key on my keyboard. Delete. Put a red line over it. That's a rejection. That basically means, okay, I don't want to see that clip. If I come up here and go to hide rejected, it's going to remove that one clip. Let's say I selected a range of clips. I know I don't want all of these, and I hit delete. They disappeared. Why? Because I'm only looking, I told it hide my rejected clips. If I go to all clips, there they are again. So it didn't remove, didn't delete them. The only way you can delete a file out of your media browser and out of your Final Cut project or event altogether is to right-click on it and go to Move to Trash. Okay? If I say trash this file, it will pull it and any reference of it in transcoded media, proxy media, and original, and just move it to the trash. We don't want to do that, generally speaking. If you can avoid doing that, that's fine. But if you know it's like, okay, it's a clip I know I'm never going to use, and you want to trash it, by all means, you can do that. Okay? But rejections are great, and you can remove any ratings. So let's say you accidentally rejected these 9 clips. Well, I can just come down here, click on the empty star, and it unrates them. And these ratings are really cool. I can look at, okay, hide the rejected clips. Or I can say, you know what, show me only my favorites. Or show me only the rejected clips. What ones have I rejected? Or maybe I want to go back and use one of these. Or show me all the clips that don't have any ratings whatsoever. And it'll do that for you as well. So pretty powerful filtering methods once we have things keyword tagged and renamed via personal preference.